Hello everyone and welcome back finally to another of our F1 24 Hotlap and setup guides. Yes, I'm sorry, it's been a while, but we do finally return with more of these setups inside F1 24. Ultimately, the game seems to have been tweaked and changed every other week recently. I do now think that hopefully we're going to see some more stability with the game now into the kind of autumn and into the winter. So I thought it would be a good time to jump back in, especially now all the leaderboards have been reset as well. I think we're going to see a few more, obviously, setup metas slowly changing through the coming weeks and months. But I wanted to return and help you guys with your race setups once again. Of course, if you're new to this series, these are race-tailored setups that we go into that will hopefully help you improve on the game. No, they're not going to set any world records on time trial. No, they're not going to be the greatest setups, you know, for top split PSGL or WOR, but they should hopefully, for those of you new to the F1 games or still struggling or have just recently gone to no assists, will hopefully provide you guys with some better guidance as well. Obviously, this time around we're here at the Hungary ring. Timestamps, as always, will be linked down in the description below. A massive thank you to all of you for helping us surpass 10,000 subscribers on the channel as well. And yeah, let's head out then onto the track and show you guys what you want to be looking for. Well, a lap like any other then here in F1 24 begins on the start-finish straight. Keep the car over on the left-hand side, one of the two DRS zones around this venue. You want to be aiming, obviously, to keep the car on the left ready for turn one. Now, there's actually quite a few useful brake markers in towards this first corner. I personally like to use the pit lane line and the 100-meter board ready for this first turn. You can brake slightly later than them, but I find this is a really kind of good benchmark, especially, you know, if you're on more worn-out tyres. It just gives you a reliable point to brake every single time. If you're doing, you know, a one-shot qualifying run or something like that, you can actually brake about 75 metres out, so between that line and the curbing here, ready for turn one. But you're going to bring the car from all the way up in 8th gear as you bring the car in all the way down into 3rd gear, ready for this first corner. It's a deceptively tight hairpin, so you really want to try and actually go for a little bit of a later apex and get the car straightened up on the exit of the corner as well. One of the very unique aspects to the Hungary ring is actually how early the detection point is for the second DRS zone on the traction off of that first corner. Ultimately, as you'll probably see on my lap, I don't actually activate it instantly. You want to try and get the car back into 4th gear and then open up the DRS on the exit of the corner. Otherwise, you find yourself losing traction, losing stability, and probably finding yourself in that inside wall as well there. Making your way, though, down in towards turn 2, of course, you're going to go carry the car over onto the right-hand side under the gantry. This second corner, really difficult to spot a braking point for. You want to go past the 100-meter board. I like to brake just as you can start to see there, as the curb is about to fall away from you, about 80 meters out, ready for turn 2. You're going to be all the way up in 7th gear on the way in, and you want to bring the car all the way down into 3rd gear, obviously. The track is slightly cambered outwards, so it's really important that you carry the car in for, once again, quite a late apex on the second part of the corner. You want to be aiming just past that gantry on the inside before you really meet the apex there. You can short shift up into 4th gear if you're struggling a little bit for traction, but allow the car to run quite wide on the exit of the corner, back up through 5th gear, and then into 6th as you go through turn 3, which is very much a nothing left, but I weirdly find it's easy just to try and scroll off as little speed as possible and run slightly wide over the curbing on the exit of the corner. And now you make your way back up the hill in towards easily the best corner of the lap, the blind entry to turn 4. 7th gear on the way in. Your kind of reference point here is going to be that black box gantry on the outside of the corner there. Just after that, you want to bring the car down 1 gear, and just as you see that inside curb, tip it in. I like to just take the curb rather than trying to remount it on the inside there, but allow the car to run wide on the exit of the corner as well, up over that curbing there on the outside. Bring the car, though, back over to the left before, once again, you're looking for that black box on the outside. Tip it in, down 2 more gears. Now, this curb on the inside has been lethal for years. It's always a horrible curb in any of the F1 games, so you want to get as close to it as you possibly can, but never, ever try and touch it. Otherwise, you're going to go for a spin. It's really annoying. Even if you just nudge it, it can really upset the car there. And on the exit of the corner, back into 5th gear, don't run wide like we saw from Yuki Tsunoda last weekend, and then up into 6th gear as you make your way down into the chicane. Braking just at the start of the curbing, just before the 50-meter board. I like to use 3rd gear on the entry and the exit, really attack the curbing through the second part of the corner especially, but allow the car to run wide on the exit of the corner. The 100-meter board here has some very, very odd physics to it, and it actually, if you nudge it, can bring the car back slightly to the left-hand side. So, really want to try and aim for as close to that as you can, and then keep the car wedged over this curbing in towards the next turn there. Keep it in 5th gear on the way in, try to actually take quite an early apex into this corner, really get the car over the inside curb, hug the left-hand side of the venue though, a slight blend of throttle through the second part of the corner, and again, try to take as much curb as you possibly can, and allow the car to run slightly wide on the exit there. Up into 6th gear as you drop off the edge of the curb, get the car back inside the white lines, and then hug the left-hand side once again as you make your way up in towards this final sector. Just as you go past that entry curb, leave it in 6th gear, fully flat out in qualifying trim. You're probably going to need a blend as you head into the race there. But yeah, fully flat out in 6th gear there. Let the car run wide on the exit, and then short shift back up into 7th gear as you make your way down in towards this tricky final sector of the venue there. Braking just as you reach this curb on the outside. Again, it's a 90-degree right-hander, so you want to try and take a nice late apex. You can't really attack the curb, though, on the entry and allow the car to run nicely wide on the exit. Don't allow it to run too wide, though, because you want to be getting the car back over to the right-hand side. The bump into this corner is horrible. It just induces understeer right the way through. So you're going to be up into 5th gear on the way in. I like to use 3rd gear through this penultimate corner of the lap, just so you get a bit of extra bite from the front end. Don't be caught out by the gully on the inside. With these ground effect cars, it really does throw the back end of the car around. So I would say avoid that and just try and keep the car on next to the white line on the entry through. Allow it to run wide on the exit. Try to avoid allowing the car too far over the curbs. You're going to be back into 5th gear, ready for the final corner. I like to use 4th gear through here, but I've seen it can be slightly quicker to use 5th, especially in qualifying trim. Try to get a late apex, avoid the pit wall on the inside there, and once again avoid the guttering on the exit. Power down, 5th gear on the exit, open up the DRS, and a short run back towards the start-finish line. And that is going to be a lap then here of the Hungarian Grand Prix circuit. It's one of my least favourite on the calendar. I just never really find a flow around this venue, and it really does bug me still, despite how many years, obviously, I've played it on all of the F1 games. It's a difficult track to overtake, so let's head back to the garage, and I'll talk you guys through the setup. Well, as you can see then, taking a look at the leaderboard, we are just inside the top 1,000. Like I said, obviously leaderboards have recently been wiped, but already, yeah, some top times coming back in for various other drivers there. We're about 1.7, 1.8 seconds off of top times. The first one I recognise is Isvan Pukki, but I think, yeah, Juiced as well is a name that I do recognise. I'm probably butchering their names. I apologise on the very odd chance that they are watching this video as well there. But having a look at the setup then, of course, the Hungaroring is a very, very high downforce track, so 47-44 on the wing. If you're struggling still with rotation through the front end, you can up that all the way to like 50-48, but I would just say, obviously, you're going to be a sitting duck on the straights, and if someone else is running like 40 downforce, then they're really going to be able to fly past you. It's all about confidence around this venue, and you've got to allow, you know, the car to kind of run wide on the exits of corners, but track limits, they shouldn't be too big of a concern, with the exception of the run into the final sector as well. And obviously turn 4 can be really, really brutal. 35-40 on the diff settings, and then 30 on the engine braking. Of course, as I mentioned, loads of the tracks now, obviously, you know, leaderboards have been wiped. There's been quite a few setup tweaks. Weirdly, the setups I've been doing have worked quite well despite the changes still, so I'm pretty happy with that, especially on the transmission side of things. I like to run quite a low differential setting around this circuit, of course. There's so many changes of direction around this venue that you want to allow those rear wheels to spin up independently and kind of work themselves around. Plus, it's better for your tyre wear as well, and this track can be a real tyre killer as well there. Minus 3.1, minus 1.7 on the front and rear cambers, and then 0.11 and 0.09 on the front and rear toes. These are really, really low, actually, inside this year's game, of course, again, where you have got so many changes of direction. Tyre temperature is quite a critical thing, and obviously where these cars generate so much of their grip underneath them, you can obviously allow those tyres to be sacrificed ever so slightly But yeah, not as much as you'll see around a lot of other venues on this game. 31-13 on the front and rear suspension. Actually, two of the more extreme settings I've tried so far. It seems like with some of these patches that you can run slightly more extreme suspension settings, and you've actually got to in some instances as well to be a little bit better on the tyres. But 14-11 on the anti-roll bars, actually some of the firmer ones we've ran. 27-70 on the ride height. If you're struggling with the apex curb through turn 4 and turn 6, I would potentially up this to like 30 and then maybe running as high as like 77. But yeah, I wouldn't want to go much higher than that. Otherwise, you are going to be a sitting duck down the straight as well there. That's just what worked for me inside this setup. 97.54, my brake bias, it remains unchanged since the start of the year. It's just what works for me and what I'm used to. And 25.9 on the front pressures, 21.3 on the rears. It's weirdly a traction limited circuit, but the front left still, because there's so many corners around here, actually still takes most of the pressure. So you got to run quite high front tyre pressures because you do not want it to be overheating around this venue as well there. But there we go then. That is a hot lap and setup guide here from the Hungaroring. Like I said, a massive thank you to all of you guys for sticking around. Hopefully these are going to be back quite consistently, not quite daily, but I will be trying to bring you guys as many as I can throughout the second half of the calendar as well there. But yeah, I'll leave you guys in with a full hot lap here from the Hungarian Grand Prix.